Today we are going through my primers, powders, and setting sprays. So basically the rest of my base products before we can get on to what for me is the fun part, which is the color cosmetics. I'm really excited about that. Looking at this here, I feel like this is a pretty reasonable sized collection of those things. So I'm not sure exactly how much we are going to be decluttering. I can see a couple of things. There are a couple of things in here that I think can probably go, but we are going to be going over every single product. I'm going to tell you how I feel about the products, and then we will decide whether or not it has a place in my collection moving forward. I also have here my foundation mixers. This is something I really should have gone over with you guys during my foundation and concealer declutter, but to be perfectly honest, I just kind of spaced it. So these are my products for mixing. I kind of feel like a little bit of a broken record, and if you have watched any of my other videos, you have probably heard me say that I have a slightly cool olive undertone. That is not a undertone that is very well represented in most foundation ranges. So in order to get a foundation that really matches me well, I have to mix a blue mixer into it. And that's something that I do almost every day of my life. I do have a couple of products that I don't have to mix, but for the most part, most of my foundations end up needing to be mixed with a blue mixer. What the blue does is it desaturates the foundation a little bit, it introduces a little bit of gray into the foundation, which is something that is really good for us lighter skinned olive girls. It also adds in a little bit of that green that I really need for a foundation to match me well. I also have some mixers here that will adjust the value. So I can add this to darken a foundation and I can add this to lighten a foundation. So those are really handy to have. For most people, obviously, having to adjust your foundation every time you apply it is not practical. But because I'm mixing anyway, and I have become so used to it, it's not a big deal for me. So going for that extra step of adjusting the value of the foundation, it's not a lot of extra work for me. But I understand why most people are not going to want to do that on the daily. So I have two blue mixers here. I have one from LA Girl. This is the Pro Color Foundation Mixing Pigment. It is, of all the blue pigments that I have used, this one's probably the most accessible. I'm pretty sure you can get it at some Ultas where LA Girl is stocked. I have gone through many bottles of this, and I really do like it, but I have since found something that I like even better. Despite that, I'm keeping all of these mixers. The blue mixers, at least, I will absolutely go through them. I do go through blue mixers. I don't know if I will end up finishing these two just because I use them less often. This is my other blue mixer. This is not the one I like better than the LA Girl. I actually don't like this one at all, and may have actually decluttered it last year. This is the AOA Studios Shade Adjusting Drops in Blue. There are a couple of things that I don't like about this, but the biggest problem that I have with it is that it's too pigmented, and so I have to be insanely careful when I am trying to mix a single serving of a foundation. However, over the last few months, I have started decanting some of my favorite foundations into empty cushion compacts in order to create my own custom cushion foundations. I've found this very useful for that because I am trying to adjust a large amount of foundation rather than a single application, and that's where this product is useful to me. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this one as well. I will go through it. My favorite foundation mixer I don't have here because I just finished it, and it is the Temp 2 Foundation Mixing Pigment. That is a beautiful product. It has the perfect value. It's not going to darken or lighten my foundation, and it also has the right opacity. It's easy to get the right amount for a single application of foundation. That has become my absolute favorite mixer. It is a little less accessible than the LA Girl. I get it off of Amazon for about $14, and I have been through multiples of those as well. One of the things I did want to mention about the LA Girl Foundation Mixing Pigments, and this goes for any of the shades, I do feel like this impacts the finish of the foundation a little bit, which the Temp 2 doesn't do. This does matte out the foundation just a little bit. So if that's not something that you're looking for, this might not be the mixer for you. I do have a bottle of Temp 2 foundation mixer, but this is not in my beloved blue. This is in violet. This is something I picked up recently because I had some very yellow foundations I needed to correct. And I have found that a blue mixer alone will not do that for me adequately. What I end up with is a warm olive foundation, and I need a cool olive foundation. Adding a little bit of the violet mixer in alongside the blue mixer to a very yellow foundation will bring it much closer to my undertone, which will bring it much closer to where it needs to be. In any case, I am keeping all of these mixers. They are all super useful to me. Oh, shoot, you guys. I have one more mixer to talk to you about. I forgot about this one because I never use it. So I think this is going to be my one declutter in the mixer category. This is a blue mixer in a cream format. This is the Salt New York Cream Tint Pro Lip and Cheek in the shade blue. This is something I picked up to mix in with a couple of cream foundations that I had that didn't quite match my undertone. However, mixing a cream foundation is such a fussy process, and especially given the fact that my favorite thing about creams is just how incredibly quick and easy they are, it completely defeats the purpose to have to mix it. This is also a little bit too pigmented. I'm going to show you. This is what it looks like. It's going to stain my finger, but anyway, I never use this. I have since decluttered the cream foundations that weren't matching me properly because I just can't be bothered to go through the trouble of mixing a cream. It's just, I'm just not interested. So I don't have any more use for this. I'm going to go ahead and declutter it. Did we do the numbers on the mixers? Okay, let's do the numbers on the mixers. So I began 2025 with 7 mixers. I used up 2 and I purchased 1, which left me with 6 mixers. I'm getting rid of 1 mixer today, and that's going to drop me down to 5 mixers. I'm happy with that amount. I don't know if that's a lot or if that's a little. I don't really have anybody to compare myself to. I don't know anyone else who has mixers as a particularly large part of their makeup collection or routine, but it is a functional number for me. So I am happy with that. Okay, we are moving on to primers. I actually only have 2 primers. Where's the other one? Shoot. Okay, yes, I only have 2 primers to show you today. I actually thought I had one more. I thought I had the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer, but I couldn't find that anywhere, so I think I may have already decluttered that. So we just have the 2 here. Let's do the numbers first. I'm going to try to remember to do the numbers first on the rest of these, but honestly, I may forget. You'll see how well I do, I suppose. I started 2025 with 4 primers. I finished 2. Those were the Rimmel Stay Matte, really nice oil controlling mattifying primer. I also finished a deluxe size of the Cover FX gripping primer. Very nice gripping primer, but I think there are drugstore options that work just as well. And then I apparently decluttered the e.l.f. one. So I decluttered 1 and then I also purchased 1, and that brought my total to 2. The one that I purchased is this one. This is the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Powder in the shade Universal. This is the second one of these that I have owned. I love it, obviously, since I have repurchased it. It is such a nice product. It is the absolute best mattifying oil controlling primer that I have ever used. And unlike a lot of other oil controlling primers, I feel like this one is not uncomfortable with the skin at all. It is just incredibly lightweight, very, very comfortable. This is especially useful for me in the summertime when my combo oily skin is a little bit more oily. Just a lovely, lovely primer. I went without it for I think a year while I was trying to finish up other primers, and I'm so glad to have it back in my life. Love this product. This one is the Mally Beauty Face Defender in the shade Universal. I saw this at TJ Maxx and I'd heard some people speak highly of it, and so I decided to pick it up. Now, some people use this as a primer and some people will use this as a touch-up product to mattify when you've gotten a little shiny. I don't love it for either purpose. As a primer, I think it's just a little too thick. It is effective. I actually think it's probably one of the more effective pore filling primers I have ever used, but it is so thick that I feel like it can really easily get chunky on the skin. And I don't know, I don't really mind a visible pore, to be honest. Certainly not enough to go to the trouble to put this on. As a touch-up product, I just don't think that there's any benefit to this over blotting or powdering. In addition to that, the way you use this as a touch-up product is it came with a sponge, and you would just press it in here and then press it over any shiny areas that you wanted to matte down. It does work. First, it does work. However, inevitably, some of the foundation that you're wearing transfers into the gel and it ends up just looking, I don't know, a little gross. And again, I don't see the benefit in using this over blotting or powdering. So this is just not for me. So I'm going to go ahead and declutter it, leaving me with 1 primer. And honestly, if I just had 1 primer for the rest of my life, I would want it to be this one. Okay, next, let's do powders. I have a fair, what is to me kind of a decent number of powders. I have 3 loose powders and I have 4 pressed powders over here. These all serve different functions, and I like them to varying degrees. Let's talk about the numbers first. Okay, at the beginning of 2025, I had 6 powders. I did not finish any, although I was so close on this. If I had just so close. Do you see how little product is in there? I don't know. If I had just focused a little harder on this, I could have had it done by the end of the year, but alas, I did not. So I didn't finish any in 2025. I didn't declutter any, and I purchased 1. So that brings me up to 7 powders here. I think we might be able to let go of some of this. Okay, let's talk about the loose powders first. What I'm looking for in a loose powder is something that's going to set my face, something that is going to blur and mattify, and that's going to be really nice and lightweight. My favorite powder right now is this one. It's the One Size powder in Ultra Pink. I just love this powder. This is my everyday powder. I kind of feel like a pink powder is for a cool toned girl what a banana powder is to someone with a more golden undertone. It is so nice on the skin. I don't feel like it's overly pink on my skin tone. It is very brightening, it is very blurring, and it is very lightweight. I love this powder so much. I think that's the reason why I wasn't able to completely finish this one before the end of the year, because I was having a hard time setting this one down and focusing on this one. This one used to be my favorite. This is the It Cosmetics By Pores loose powder. This used to be my favorite. This is actually my second jar of this, and it is almost gone. It has since been supplanted by other products, including the One Size. So this is no longer my favorite. I don't believe I will repurchase it once it's done. It is a perfectly nice powder. It is lightweight, it is mattifying. It does give me a little bit of just a little white cast, as I think a lot of translucent powders do, but I have gotten so used to using the pink one, and I find that this just, because of my undertone, I feel like this just blends into my skin a little bit better than the It Cosmetics does. So I am going to hang on to this, obviously, since I have so little left. It is rolled into my 50 Shades of Black project pan, and I'm pretty sure I can have this done by the next update for that project. So here's hoping. This is the powder that I purchased this year. It is the Honest Beauty Invisible Blurring Loose Powder. This has been discontinued. I am very sad about this. It is my second jar of this powder, and this is absolutely the most mattifying powder I have ever used. And I mean that in an absolutely good way. This is a fantastic powder. It is very lightweight. It is very blurring and perfecting, and it actually keeps me matte for a decent amount of time, even in the summertime. Other oily girls will understand my struggle. Sometimes you will powder, and then half an hour later, you look in the mirror, and it's like you didn't powder. That is so frustrating. And this powder keeps me matte longer than any of the other powders that I have tried. I tend to use this mostly in the summertime. Honestly, these two right here, the Danessa Myricks Blurring Balm Powder as a primer, and then the Honest Beauty on top. This is just mwah, match made in heaven. Love it. Come summertime, I'm going to crack this thing open, and every time I apply it, I am going to curse Honest Beauty for discontinuing it. I'm going to have to find a replacement. I will not rest until I find a powder that is as good as this one. If you are oily skinned and you have any recommendations for a powder that keeps you matte for a good amount of time, please let me know, because once this is done, I'm going to need to find something else. Really love that powder. Obviously, I'm going to keep it. So these are my pressed powders. I have a finishing powder, I have a powder foundation, and I have 2 under eye setting powders. This powder foundation is in my powders instead of my foundations because I use it more as a powder. Let's look at these ones first. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush something. This is just a little mini size. This is a really lovely, creamy, smooth, lightweight under eye setting powder, very brightening, really, really nice. Then the NARS. I feel like the formula of this is so different, and yet on me, the effect on the eyes is very, very similar. This is their translucent crystal light reflecting setting powder. This is so hard pressed and kind of dry to the touch. Very, very little product seems to come off, but it sets down the under eye in just the most lovely way. It's very smoothing and it does not weigh the under eye down. I think both of these powders are really lovely under the eye, and I'm going to hang on to both of them. Then the Hourglass. This is a finishing powder. This is something that you don't set your products with this. You would put this over everything just to change the finish of your skin. And this adds just the most lovely luminescent glow that doesn't look like a highlighter. The way that I enjoy using this one the most is sometimes I will finish my makeup and I will look in the mirror. It just doesn't look cohesive, and I need something to get everything to, just come together and look nicer. And I will take a big fluffy brush, dust this all over the face. It just helps everything sink in and gives this really lovely luminescence. It is such a pretty product. And yeah, I'm definitely hanging on to this one. This is the one I think maybe can go. This is the Makeup Forever. Why can't you focus? There we go. This is the Makeup Forever Powder Foundation, the Matte Velvet Skin Powder Foundation in the shade Y235. This is something that I use kind of in the same way that I do the Hourglass. Basically, after I have finished my makeup, if I need to add coverage, but I don't want to, I've already powdered and I don't want to add any liquids or creams over that powder, this is really useful for that. I also use it when I have maybe gone a little overboard on my blush or my bronzer and I just need something to just knock it back a little bit. This is really helpful for that as well. I don't know. I don't know if the few times a year that I use it really justifies it staying in my collection. So I think of all of these powders, this is the one that I'd be most willing to part with. So we're going to go ahead and put that in the declutter pile. That leaves me with 6 powders. I'm happy with this. I feel like these are all very functional in my collection. Do I need 2 under eye setting powders? No, but I'm going to keep them anyway. This one is almost done, so soon that will be out of the picture, and that will leave me with 5 powders, which I think is just a very modest collection. I'm super happy with that. So those are my powders. Okay, these are my setting sprays. I currently have 5 setting sprays. Let's look at my numbers. Setting sprays. I started out 2025 with 4 setting sprays. I did not actually finish any, although this Sephora setting spray is pretty close, and I purchased 1. So 1 new setting spray came into my collection, obviously leaving me with 5 setting sprays. First, let's look at the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. This is the jumbo-sized can. I have been through so many cans of this product. It is a really lovely, versatile product. I use this in the way I think a lot of people use the MAC Fix Plus. One of the things I like to do with this, if I look in the mirror and I've gone overboard on the powder products and I'm looking a little dry, or if I want a more radiant finish, I will go over it with this and everything just melts together so nicely. I will also use this if I'm working with a really chunky shimmer shadow. This is really helpful for that. Just a really good all-rounder for adding some hydration or some glow or helping those eyeshadows stick. I am going to keep this and will probably repurchase once it's done. Here is another one I have repurchased several times. This is the Sephora Makeup Setting Spray. It says 16-hour wear, but I find this to be a very, I want to say, light hold setting spray. So on the spectrum of setting sprays, you have this. This is the light hold setting spray. It's a very mild setting spray. On the other end, you have some of the really heavy duty setting sprays, the ones that are like hairspray for the face. This is definitely on the other end of the spectrum. It's very comfortable and it's not drying at all. And so I find that it's a really nice everyday setting spray. This does not dry out my skin with repeated use. It's just a really nice one for extending the wear of your makeup a little bit. It's not an event setting spray for me. I would use one of these other ones for an event that I need my makeup to just be bulletproof. This is not the one I would reach for, but it's a good kind of daily use setting spray. It's a good one, but I don't know if I'm going to repurchase it once it's done because I have fallen in love with this. This is the Gerard Cosmetics Slay All Day Setting Spray. It is in the coconut scent, which I love. This is my second bottle of this. I just really love this setting spray. If we were to look at that spectrum again, this is the very mild hold setting spray. And then we've got the All Nighter over here, which is a much more heavy duty setting spray, although I know that there are even more heavy duty setting sprays than this one. The Gerard's going to be somewhere in the middle. The Gerard gives me more longevity than the Sephora, but it doesn't dry out my skin like the Urban Decay can if I use it too many days in a row. It also doesn't have that really, tight feeling on the face. This is very comfortable. I really, really love this setting spray. And I think that once the Sephora is gone, I think I'm just going to stick with the Gerard. Really lovely. The Urban Decay All Nighter, of course, is a classic. This is, or at least it was. before they changed their formula. This is the old formula. It is not something I would wear very often. I just pulled this out for events where I just really needed my makeup to just freeze for like 12 hours. Really, really nice setting spray. I'm so sad that they have changed their formula. RIP all-nighter. This is the one that I think I can get rid of. This is the e.l.f. Power Grip Dewy Setting Spray. You can tell the plastic is still on it. I have not opened it up. This I got in an Ipsy. It's not something that I would have chosen for myself. I don't have a lot of use for a dewy setting spray. If I do want a little bit more of a hydrated finish, I will go for the Morphe, but it's just not something that has much of a use in my collection personally. So I have kept this sealed, and I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to someone else who can put it to better use than I can. This is my one declutter from my setting sprays, and I'm going to be keeping the other 4. So keeping 4, decluttering 1. So this is my very lightly decluttered box of products. We didn't get rid of a ton. I think we only have 4 products here. But honestly, I don't feel like there's a whole lot of superfluous products in here. A couple of products I am just on the verge of finishing, so we're hanging on to those. And now we get to go into the color cosmetics. I am so excited. In the next video, we'll go into blushes, bronzers, etc. And we will eventually end up going through my enormous collection of eyeshadows. I'll probably have to split that up into 2 videos. In any case, I cannot wait. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.